Steve, we talked to Brett, we talked to
Mark.
Jesse, and Mark Wilson. All reasonably good. I mean, it's a huge deal. It's a different interview for Mark versus Steven, for example.
Much different for.
That just summarized where we're at,
I think it might.
right? It's
Yeah.
like for some guys, this is their very first experience with this thing, and they couldn't be more excited to be here. And then other guys have been to the mountaintop, and now we're trying to reclimb the mountain. So you couldn't have more polarizing experiences, and I'm experiencing both all at the same time. Couldn't be more excited to be in a VNL match against the Olympic champs, and couldn't be more disappointed that we're not playing better. So I think that's part of learning. But that was interesting to hear how different that would be. And even probably for Brett and who else? Jesse?
Jesse.
Again, those guys are a little bit more in the middle of those two experiences. Yeah, it's probably 4 different degrees of joy and frustration. And, I mean, I think that's that's the path of learning. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing we keep saying. Talking to a couple of the old dogs, Perrin and Marshall, and as long as we keep our motivation and our focus on where we're headed, then, man, we can climb this mountain. But it's all great things get derailed by lack of motivation. And that's got to be where we keep our focus, because we couldn't be more disappointed with some of the results, but it's hard to see the forest for the trees, they say, and it's getting better, just not as quite as fast as I think we'd like.
Obviously, just as you said, hey, we're just going to jump into it here, but obviously another 3-0 loss isn't what we're looking for, but you have to be a little happier with what you saw tonight compared to what you saw on Tuesday.
I think it's incredibly important to not be happy or sad about pretty much anything. Let's just eliminate the emotion from the equation, and let's just figure out what was right, what was the way we wanted it and what wasn't, and then we'll just get back to work tomorrow. Every point is exciting and every point's disappointing and every match is the same, but finding a way to separate the natural emotion of the human experience from being a learner is vital, and that's got to be our thing. So sure, we're disappointed in the result, but there's some things that we'll take forward, and there's some things that we're going to upgrade tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And again, as long as we don't lose our steam, then that mountain is climbable. And emotions can't be part of kind of the learning process.
You talked about earlier this week about managing the guys, especially with the 3 games in a row here. We saw France do the same thing tonight. When you saw that lineup, was there any thought about going back to some of the guys like Nick, bringing those guys back in?
No, I think again it's important to stay on track with what our goals are, and our goals we have to compete. These matches against quality opponents are gold. So we need to learn what we have to learn, and we have to compete with the people for the reasons we're competing. So we had that lineup organized, and it honestly doesn't really matter what's on the other side right now. We have our own objectives and our own lessons that we're trying to learn, and some boxes we're checking and other boxes we're not. And honestly, I mean, heck, I don't know. The greatest Brazil of the 2000s could show up, and we'll still probably stay on our path. We have to keep the long game in mind. But we also got to be a bit more competitive in the short game. I know we have a better performance than that in us, and so we got to keep pushing the guys to be really great now, while we keep the long game in play. So I love golf, and I'm terrible at it. But in golf, I'm super medium at the short game, and I'm super medium at the long game. But they're both pretty important to golfing well, and I think volleyball is no different. So we got to be good today and tomorrow, and more importantly, we got to make sure this program is great for 28, 32, 24, 36, forever.
Now, looking at the short term, you've got Italy tomorrow, Bulgaria on Sunday. Now we're in the thick of it. You got back-to-back matches. Any adjustments moving forward? Is it still going to be staying on the course?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I think the course isn't a straight line either. So staying on course doesn't mean you just stay right exactly where you're headed. So as long as the destination is in mind, then we can kind of veer and weave and bob and all of those things that are part of the art of this whole thing. But we just got to make sure we're moving up and we're moving forward. And I think we took a step forward from Tuesday. Maybe not quite as big a step as maybe all of us were hoping, but it was a step. And it has to be another one tomorrow. And this analogy we always uses the 20-mile march, and sometimes the 20 miles are hard. Sometimes they're easy, but they got to get done. And so tomorrow's what an opportunity to get another 20 miles behind us and get a little bit closer to where we're headed.
You had the chance tonight to talk to some alumni of the program. There's guys like Gord Perrin and Stephen Marshall in the crowd. What was their message to you kind of after this one?
Yeah, it was neat. They were encouraging, and they just said, hey, be patient. We can see it, and the guys are fired up. Like talking to the older players, they're like, they're bought in, and they can see where we're headed, and they think it's great. So, that's encouraging. They're good people. I'm glad they didn't tell us we were trash, but they would never do that, at least to my face.
I would love to see Stephen Marshall tell you you're trash.
You know what? Actually, that's the one guy who might. But I started coaching Stephen when he was 15 years old. So, he might. I coached him U16. So that's the guy that maybe has the right to if we've known each other this long. So,
Fair enough.
I just had one question. So across the net today, we have a team like France who, if we're talking about the long game a lot this weekend, this is a team, 12 years ago with Tanya Udi and Gapet Tilly, playing youth together, U18, a journey that took 10, 12 years. And, of course, the Olympic medal last year. Is there anything that you can learn from their process and their journey that you could implement for Canada?
patience, right? I mean, those guys are who they are because they were patient and they got better and they climbed that mountain. They didn't get distracted. You'll lose some players. They lost some of their teammates along the way that couldn't keep up, and they added new guys. And that's the mark of a great program. And we want to be a great program that's perennially ranked in the top 8, 6, competing for medals. And, we're clearly a long ways from that, but so were those guys, 10, 15 years ago too. So we got a great crew developing. I was at the Next Gen gym today with the 23s watching those guys scrimmage, and there's lots of good stuff happening there, and we can see some of the young guys coming up, and we got unreal mentorship going on by our older players. I couldn't be more proud of guys like Mar and Jay and Lucas and Steven and Nick, and I'm just very proud of them for bringing up this young generation, because if the next generation always is a little bit better than the one before, I mean, that's how to build a program. And I believe we're on track with that. Sometimes it's hard to see, but I'm pumped to see guys like Jesse and Mark and Pierce and, who else got in there today? Tias, right? It's cool to see those guys, crack the lineup and get some of that spin. And, again, it's just gold to get that kind of experience, even if it's not the way they want. That's how learning is done. So, and I'm sure Irvin wasn't always Irvin. And I remember Tilly in his freshman year. And he was super medium college player. But again, you could see he was going to be incredible. But I remember kicking the snot out of him when he was at TRU. He was pretty special as a freshman. You could see it coming. The point is, everybody gets better. And the great ones are the ones who improve the longest. Marv Dunphy had a really great line. I was asking him kind of what are the commonalities between all the Olympians he's seen, 7 straight Olympic games he's seen. And one of the things he said is the best players are the ones who continue to improve the longest. And so guys like, we can think, all the list of amazing volleyball athletes in the past that Reed Pretty comes to mind, a guy who wasn't a great college player, but ended up being an Olympian and a superstar. So again, the longer you can stay on your improvement curve, then you actually stay in the game. Like Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, Joe Montana, these guys are legends, not because they were good for a short period of time, they were good for a long period of time. So if our players want to be great, they got to be great over 10 years, like some of these French guys have earned that.
Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely.